When you read a book, you usually assume there's this direct line between you and the author. Like you open the cover and get the story straight from the source.
Right, yeah. That is the expectation.
But stepping into the world of manga, well, that line gets incredibly crowded with invisible architects, designers, and cultural bridges.
You really are never just alone with the creator on the page.
So true. And we are jumping into a new deep dive today. We're looking at the shortlist for this 2026 American Manga Awards, alongside some really fascinating industry data backed by the Japan Society.
Yes, and whether you are a lifelong fan with overflowing bookshelves or someone just noticing the manga section expanding at the bookstore, there is a massive shift happening.
Absolutely. Manga isn't just a niche comic book category anymore. It is aggressively rewriting global storytelling.
The sheer variety in this year's nominations perfectly illustrates that, I think. The medium has completely shed its old boundaries.
I mean, let's unpack that by looking at the best new manga category, right? The rookies.
Yeah.
We're seeing this massive stylistic clash.
Oh, it is wild this year.
Yeah, like you've got Yakuta, which relies on this incredibly visceral art and a gritty kind of one man's trash philosophy. And then it's up against The Summer Hikaru Died.
Which is just a quiet, creeping psychological horror.
Exactly. So I have to ask, are North American readers actually demanding this kind of thematic whiplash? Or are publishers just, throwing every subgenre at the wall to see what sticks?
Oh, the sales data actually points to a completely consumer-driven shift. We're looking at a rapidly maturing readership right now.
Really? Consumer-driven?
Yeah, I mean, 10 years ago, the market was heavily dominated by standard battle narratives. But now, the overwhelming commercial success of niche titles, like The Summer Hikaru Died, has forced publishers to really take notice. Readers are actively craving that unease and thematic depth.
But keeping that tension alive for 5 or 10 years, that is a completely different skill set. Which brings us to the best continuing manga category, the heavyweights.
Right, titles like Witch Hat Atelier and Skip and Loafer.
Yeah, exactly those. How do they avoid the trap of, say, a serialized TV show that just jumps the shark in season 6?
Well, it comes down to the mechanics of pacing.
Yeah.
And emotional escalation. They don't just introduce a bigger, badder villain every single volume.
Right, that gets old fast.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Instead, they fundamentally shift the character's worldview. Like in Witch Hat Atelier, the magic system itself grows more ethically complex as the characters age.
Wow, so the creators are mastering the wizardry of sustained stakes. So the reader never feels that fatigue of a looping plot.
That is the goal, yeah.
But none of those emotional stakes land with Western audiences without the localizers. And looking at the best translation nominees, we know translation isn't just a basic one-to-one dictionary swap.
Oh, not at all.
Yeah.
The real war is fought in tone localization. That is where the heavy lifting actually happens.
Because adapting the psychology of a scene has to be incredibly difficult.
Yeah. It is. I mean, to make a highly specific cultural joke that landed in Tokyo work for an American reader, a translator might have to completely rewrite a regional pun into like a Midwestern slang equivalent.
That is wild to think about.
Yeah, they are calculating the exact comedic timing or the precise level of creeping dread. Then they have to reverse engineer the English dialogue to trigger that specific psychological response.
And that psychology bleeds right into the best lettering category, which is this ultimate paradox to me. Because if a letterer does their job flawlessly, you shouldn't even consciously notice their work.
Right. They are essentially dictating your physiological reaction without you knowing.
Wait, how are they actually manipulating us on the page?
Well, a letterer doesn't just paste text into a pre-drawn bubble. Say a character screams, right? They might deploy a jagged, oversized font that physically bursts out of the panel borders.
Oh, I see.
Yeah, that visual disruption forces your eyes to widen. It literally mimics the physical sensation of a scream. By controlling the visual rhythm and flow of your eye, they are quietly controlling your heart rate.
So on one end, you have translators and letterers sustaining these massive 20-volume marathons. But the shortlist also highlights the exact opposite approach, right? The best one-shot category.
Yeah, think of it as the manga equivalent of the Oscar for Best Live Action Short. It takes immense narrative restraint.
Because you only have, what, roughly 100 pages?
Exactly. 100 pages to establish a world, make the reader deeply care about a protagonist, and then deliver a devastating emotional payload.
It really proves that perfect pacing, when it's distilled down to its most potent form, can change your perspective in a single sitting. You don't need years of backstory.
Definitely not. But speaking of years of backstory, that ties directly into the Impact Award.
Right, which isn't just a generic lifetime achievement nod. It is recognizing the pioneers who built the infrastructure for this entire boom.
Because the current global dominance of manga rests entirely on the decades of heavy lifting by those early adapters.
Yeah, the ones who fought to localize and distribute these books when the Western market was actively confused by them, or even hostile to the format.
Absolutely, they paved the way.
Well, as we wait for the grand reveal at Anime Expo, looking through these sources, it is just obvious this industry is at the absolute peak of its creative powers.
Yeah, it is broader and more daring than ever.
But it brings us back to that crowded room we talked about at the start. You are definitely not reading these stories alone.
Never. There's an entire team in there with you.
So here is a thought for you to take with you. If the emotional impact of your favorite story heavily relies on the unseen visual rhythm of a letterer or, a translator entirely rewriting a cultural joke to fit your worldview, how much of your own deep personal connection to global media is secretly authored by the people working quietly behind the scenes?